It is 8 o'clock in the evening. The curtains are drawn and the lamps lighted in the drawing-room of her flat in Cromwell Road. Her lover, a beautiful youth of 18, in evening dress and cape, with a bunch of flowers and an opera hat in his hands, comes in alone and is looking at his watch when she comes in, much flustered.
At last.
Henry, something dreadful has happened.
What's the matter?
I have lost your poems.
They were not worthy of you. I will write you some more.
Oh, no, thank you. Never any more poems from me. Oh, how I could have been so mad, so rash, so imprudent.
Thank heaven for your madness, your rashness, and imprudence.
Oh, be sensible, Henry. Can't you see what terrible thing this is for me? Suppose anyone found these poems. What will they think?
They will think that a man once loved a woman more devoutly than ever man loved woman before, but they will not know what man it was.
What good is that to me if everybody will know what woman it was?
But how will they?
How will they know? Why, my name is written all over them. My silly, unhappy name. Only it, oh, if only I had been christened Mary Jane or Gladys Muriel or Beatrice or Francesca or Guinevere, but something quite common. But Aurora, 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 I'm the only Aurora in London, and everybody knows it. I believe I'm the only Aurora in the world, and if it is so horribly easy to rhyme to it. Oh, Henry, why didn't you just restrain your feelings a little in common consideration for me? Why didn't you write with some little reserve?
Write poems to you with reserve? You ask that?
Yes, dear, of course. Uh, It was very nice of you, and I know it was my very own fault as much as yours. I ought to have noticed that your verse ought never to have been addressed to a married woman.
How I wish they had been addressed to a married woman. How I wish they had.
Indeed, you have no right to wish anything of the sort. They are quite unfit to anybody but a married woman. That's just the difficulty. What will my sisters-in-law think of them?
Have you got sisters in law?
Yes, of course I do. Do you suppose I am an angel?
I do. Heaven help me, I do. Or I did.
Listen to me, Henry dear. It's very nice of you that to think of me in a dream or to love me and so on, but I can't help my husband having disagreeable relatives, can I?
Of course, they are your husband relatives. I forgot that. Forgive me.
The fact is, has got nothing but relatives. He has 8 sisters and 6 half-sisters and ever so many brothers. But I don't mind the brothers, and the sisters quarrel with one another like mad all the time. Yet let one brother marry, and they devote their time to the sister-in-law, uh, to make a perfect unfortunate time for him to see that his wife is unworthy of him. There ought to be a law against a man entering ever entering his house after he's married. I am certain I am certain that I'm sitting here that Georgina stole those poems out of my workbox.
She will not understand them, I think.
Oh, she won't she? She'll understand them all too well. She'll understand them more harm than ever was in them. That vulgar minded cat.
Oh, don't think of people in that way. Don't think of her at all. Aurora, do you remember the evening when I sat here at your feet and read you those poems for the first time?
I shouldn't have let you. I see that now. What I think of Georgina sitting there at Teddy's feet and reading them to him for the first time, I shall go distracted.
Yes, you are right. It will be a profanation.
Oh, I don't care about profanations. But what will Teddy think? What will he do? You don't seem to think a bit about Teddy.
To me, Teddy is nothing, and Georgina less than nothing.
You'll soon find out how much nothing she is. If you think a woman can't do any harm because she's only a scandal-mongering dowdy ragbag, you're greatly mistaken. Henry, help me find a way out of this for me, and I'll bless you as long as I live. Oh, how wretched I am.
And oh, how happy I am.
Don't be selfish.
Yes, I deserve that. I think if I were going to the stake with you, I should still be so happy with you that I could hardly feel your danger more than my own.
Oh, you dear darling boy. Yes, but you're no use. I want somebody to tell me what to do.
Your heart will tell you at the right time. I have thought deeply over this, and I know what we two must do sooner or later.
No, Henry, I will do nothing improper, nothing dishonorable.
If you did, you would no longer be Aurora. Our course is perfectly simple, perfectly straightforward, perfectly stainless and true. We love one another. I am not ashamed of that. I am ready to go out and proclaim it all to London, as simply as I would declare it to your husband when you see, as soon we will see. And this is the only way honorably enough for your feet to tread. Let us go together to our own house this evening, without concealment and without shame.
And where shall we go to?
We should not depart by a hair's breadth from the ordinary natural current of our lives. We were going to the theater when the loss of the poems compelled us to take action at once. We shall go to the theater still, but we should leave your pearls here, for we cannot afford pearls, and we do not need them.
I have told you already that I hate pearls. Only Teddy insists on hanging them all over with. You needn't not preach simplicity.
I never thought of doing so, dearest. I know that these trivialities are nothing to you. What was I saying? Oh, yes. Instead of coming back from the theater, you will come with me to my home, now and henceforth our home. And in due course of time, when you are divorced, we shall go through whatever legal ceremony you may desire. I attach no importance to the law. My love was not created in me by the law, nor can it be bound or loosened by it. That is simple enough and sweet enough, isn't it not? Here are the flowers I have, the tickets. We will ask your husband to lead us the carriage to show that there is no malice, no grudge between us. Come on.
Teddy isn't in yet.
Well, let us take that calmly. Let us go to the theater as if nothing had happened and tell him when we come back. Now, or 3 hours hence, today or tomorrow. What does it matter, provided all is done in honor without shame or fear?
What did you get tickets for? Longren?
I tried, but Longren was sold out for tonight.
Then what did you get?
Can you ask me? What is there besides Longren that we two could endure except Candida?
Candida? No, I won't go to it again. Henry, it is that play that has done all this mischief. I am very sorry I ever saw it. It ought to be stopped.
Aurora,
Yes, I mean it.
that divinous love poem, the poem that gave us courage to speak to one another, that revealed to us what we really felt for one another, that
Just so. It's a lot of stuff into my head, and I should have never dreamt it for myself. I imagine myself just like Candida.
you were you were right. You are like Candida.
Oh, stuff, and I thought you were just like Eugene. Now that I come to think of it, you're rather like him too.
Aurora, if Candida had loved Eugene, she would have gone out into the night with him without a moment's hesitation.
Henry, do you know what wanting is in that play?
There is nothing wanting in it.
Yes, there is. There is a Georgina wanting in it. If Georgina had been there to make trouble, that play would have been a true tragedy. Now I'll tell you something about it that I never told you before.
What is that?
I took Teddy to it. I thought it would do him some good, and so it would, if I could only have kept him awake. Georgina came too, and you should have heard the way she went on about. She said it was downright immoral, and that she knew the sort of woman that encourages boys to sit on the hearth rug and make love to her. She was just preparing Teddy's mind to poison it about me.
Let us be just to Georgina, dearest.
Let her deserve it first. Just to Georgina, indeed.
She really sees the world in that way. That is her punishment.
How can it be her punishment when she likes it? It'll be my punishment when she brings that budget of poems to Teddy. I wish you have some sense and sympathize with my position a little bit.
My dear, I really don't care about Georgina or Teddy. All these squabbles belong to a plane on which I am, as you say, no use. I have counted the cost, and I do not fear the consequences. After all, what is there to fear? Where's the difficulties? What can Georgina do? What can your husband do? What can anybody do?
Do you mean to say that you propose that we should walk right bang up to Teddy and tell him that we're going away together?
Yes, what can be simpler?
And do you think for a moment he'd stand it? Like the half-baked regal man in the play? He'd just kill you.
You don't understand these things, my darling. How could you? In one respect, I am unlike the poet in the play. I have followed the Greek ideal and not neglected the culture of my body. Your husband can make a tolerable second-rate heavyweight if he were in training and 10 years younger. As it is, if I could, if strung up to a great effort by a burst of passion, give a second account of himself for perhaps 15 seconds. But I am active enough to keep out of his reach for 15 seconds, and after that I should be simply all over him.
What do you mean by all over him?
Don't ask me, dearest. At all events, I swear to you that you no need not to be anxious about me.
And what about Teddy? Do you mean to tell me you're going to beat Teddy before my very face? Like a brutal prize fighter?
All this alarm is needless, dearest. Believe me, nothing will happen. Your husband knows that I can defend myself. Under certain circumstances, nothing ever does happen, and of course I shall do nothing. The man who once loved you is no scare to me.
Doesn't he love me still? Has he told you anything?
No, no, dearest, dearest, how agitated you are. How unlike yourself. All these worries belong to the lower plane. Come with me to the higher one, the heights, the solitudes, the soul world.
No, stop. It's no use, Mr. Apjohn.
Mr. Apjohn,
Excuse me, I meant Henry, of course.
how could you ever think of me as Mr. Apjohn? I never think of you as Miss Bompas. It is always I mean, Aurora, Aurora, Aurora.
Yes, it's all very well, Mr. Apjohn. It's no use. I've suddenly begun to think of you as Mr. Apjohn, and it's ridiculous to go on calling you Henry. I thought you were a boy, a child, a dreamer. I thought you would to be much afraid to do anything, and now you want to beat Teddy and break up my house and disgrace and make a horrible scandal in the papers. It's cruel, unmanly, cowardly.
Are you afraid?
Of course I'm afraid. So would you be if you had any common sense?
Perfect love casts out fear. This is why I'm not afraid, Miss Bompas. You do not love me.
Oh, thank you, thank you. You really can be very nice, Henry.
Why do you thank me?
For calling me Miss Bompas again. I feel now that you are going to be reasonable and behave like a gentleman. What's the matter?
Once or twice in my life, I have dreamed that I was exquisitely happy and blessed. But oh, the misgiving at the first stare of consciousness, the stab of reality, the prison walls of the bedroom, the bitter, bitter disappointment of waking. And this time, oh, this time I thought I was awake.
Listen to me, Henry. We really haven't time for all this sort of flapdoodle now.
I beg your pardon? What was it you wanted me to do? I am at your service. I am ready to behave like a gentleman, if you will be the kind enough to explain exactly how.
Thank you, Henry. I was sure you would. You're not angry with me, are you?
Go on quickly. Give me something to think about, or I will.
Don't break my fan, no. Oh, don't. No, really. Oh, that's a stupid trick. I don't like that. You have no right to do that. Oh, how could you be so inconsiderate?
I beg your pardon. I will buy you a new one.
You'll never be able to match it. And it was a particular favorite of mine.
Then you will have to do without it, that's all.
That's not a very nice thing to say, after breaking my pet fan, I think.
If you know how near I was to breaking Teddy's pet wife and presenting him with the pieces, you would be thankful that you were alive instead of hauling about 5 shillings worth of ivory. Damn your fan.
Oh, don't you dare swear in my presence. One would think you were my husband.
This is some horrible dream. What has become of you? You are not my Aurora.
Oh, well, if you come to that, what has become of you? Do you think I would ever have encouraged you if I had known you were such a little devil?
Don't drag me down. Don't. Help me to find the way back to the heights.
If you would only be reasonable, Henry, if you would only remember that I am on the brink of ruin, and not go on calmly saying it's all quite simple.
It seems so to me.
If you say that again, I shall do something I'll be sorry for. Here we are, standing on the edge of a frightful precipice. No doubt it is quite simple to go over and have done with it. But can't you suggest anything more agreeable?
I can't suggest nothing now. A chill black darkness has fallen. I can see nothing but the ruins of our dream.
Can't you? Well, I can. I can see Georgina rubbing those poems in Teddy's face. And I tell you, Henry and Apjohn, that you're got me into this mess, and you must get me out of it again.
All I can say is that I'm entirely at your service. What do you wish me to do?
Do you know anybody else named Aurora?
No.
There's no use in saying no in that frozen pighead way. You must know someone named Aurora, or another somewhere.
You said you were the only Aurora in the world. And oh God, you were the only Aurora in the world to me.
Yes, yes, dear, of course. It's very nice of you, and I appreciate it indeed. But it's not reasonable just at the present. Now just listen to me. I suppose you know those poems all by heart.
Yes, by heart. Don't you?
Well, I never can remember verses, and besides, I have been so busy that I had not the time to read them all. I've thought about reading them the very first moment I can, but I've been very busy. I promise you that the most faithful Henry. But now try and remember very particularly, does the name Bompas occur in any of those poems?
No.
You're quite sure?
Of course, I'm quite sure. How could I use such a name in a poem?
Well, I don't see why not. It rhymes with Bumpus, which seems appropriate enough at present. Goodness knows, however, you're a poet, and you ought to know.
What does it matter now?
It matters a lot, I can tell you. If there's nothing about Bumpus in those poems, we can say that they were written to some other Aurora, and that you showed them to me because my name was Aurora too. So you've got to invent another Aurora for the occasion.
Oh, if you wish me to tell a lie.
Surely, as a man of honor, as a gentleman, you wouldn't tell the truth, would you?
Very well. You have spoken my spirit and desecrated my dreams. I will lie and protest and stand on my honor. Oh, I will play the gentleman. Never fear.
Yes, put it all over me, of course. Don't be mean, Henry.
You are quite right, Miss Bumpus. I beg your pardon. You must excuse my temper. I have got growing pains, I think.
Growing pains?
The process of growing from romantic boyhood into cynical maturity usually takes about 15 years. When it is compressed into 15 minutes, the pace is too fast and growing pains are the result.
This is not the time for cleverness. It's settled, isn't it? That you're going to be nice and good, and that you'll brazen it out for Teddy that you have some other Aurora?
Yes, I'm capable of anything now. I should not have told him the truth by halves, and now I will not lie by halves. I'll wallow in the honor of a gentleman.
Dearest boy, I knew you would. I. Shh,
What is it?
it's Teddy. I hear him tapping the new thermometer. He can't have anything serious on his mind, or he wouldn't do that. Per- Perhaps Georgina hasn't said anything. Try and look as nothing in the matter. Give me my gloves, quick. And, oh, go further away from me, quick. I'll button my gloves and wear if you were a hum a tune, don't think that.
The tableau would be perfect in its guiltiness. For heaven's sake, Miss Bumpus, let that glove alone. You look like a pickpocket.
Hello. I thought you two were at the theater.
Oh, I felt anxious about you, Teddy. Why didn't you come home for dinner?
I got a message from Georgina. She wanted me to go to her.
Poor dear Georgina. I haven't been able to call on her this last week. I hope there's nothing the matter with her.
Nothing except anxiety for my welfare and yours. By the way, Apjohn, I should like a word with you this evening, if Aurora can spare you for a moment.
I'm at your service.
No hurry, after the theater will do.
We have decided not to go.
Indeed! Well then, shall we adjourn to my snuggery?
Oh, no need. I shall go and lock up my pearls since I'm not going to the theater. Give me my things.
Well, we should have more room here.
I think I should prefer plenty of room.
So if it's not disturbing you, Rory.
Not at all.
Do these manuscripts seem at all familiar to you, might I ask?
Manuscripts?
Yes, would you like to look at them a little closer?
Why, these are my poems.
So I gather.
What a shame Miss Bumpus has shown them to you. You must think me an utter ass. I wrote them years ago after reading Swinburne's Song Before Sunrise. Nothing could do me then but to reel off a set of songs to the sunrise. Aurora, you know, the rosy-fingered Aurora. They're all about Aurora. When Miss Bumpus told me her name was Aurora, I couldn't resist the temptation to lend them to her to read, but I didn't bargain for your unsympathetic eyes.
Apjohn, that's really very ready of you. You are cut out for literature, and the day will come when Rory and I will be proud to have you about the home. I have heard far thinner stories from much older men.
Do you mean to imply that you don't believe me?
Do you expect me to believe you?
Why not? I don't understand.
Come, don't underrate your own cleverness, Apjohn. I think you understand pretty well.
I assure you, I am at quite a loss. Can you not be more explicit?
Don't overdo it, old chap. However, I will just be so far explicit as to say that if you think these poems read as if they were addressed not to a live woman, but to a shivering, cold time of day at which you were never out of bed in your life, you hardly do justice to your own literary powers, which I admire and appreciate, mind you, as much as any man. Come, own up. You wrote these poems to my wife. Of course you did.
Mr. Bompas, I pledge you my word you are mistaken. I need not tell you that Miss Bompas is a lady of stainless honor, who has never cast an unworthy thought on me. The fact that she's shown you my poems.
That's not a fact. I came by them without her knowledge. She didn't show them to me.
Does not that prove their perfect innocence? She would have shown them to you at once if she had taken your quite unfounded view of them.
Apjohn, play fair. Don't abuse your intellectual gifts. Do you really mean that I am making a fool of myself?
Believe me, you are. I assure you on my honor as a gentleman that I have never had the slightest feelings for Miss Bumpus beyond the ordinary esteem and regard of a pleasant acquaintance.
Oh, indeed.
I should never have dreamt of writing poems to her. The thing is absurd.
Why is it absurd?
Well, it happens that I do not admire Miss Bumpus in that way.
Let me tell you that Mrs. Bumpus has been admired by better men than you soapy-headed little puppy, you.
There is no need to insult me like this. I assure you on my honor as a...
You don't admire Mrs. Bumpus. You would never dream of writing poems to Mrs. Bumpus. My wife's not good enough for you, isn't she? Who are you, pray, that you should be so jolly superior?
Mr. Bumpus, I can make allowance for your jealousy.
Jealousy? Do you suppose I'm jealous of you? No, nor of 10 like you. But if you think I'll stand here and let you insult my wife in her own house, you're mistaken.
How can I convince you? Be reasonable. I tell you, my relations with Miss Bumpus are relations of perfect coldness, of indifference.
Say it again, say it again. You're proud of it, aren't you? Yeah, you're not worth kicking.
Look here, I'm not going to stand this.
Oh, you have some blood in your body after all. Good job.
This is ridiculous. I assure you, Miss Bumpus is quite...
What is Mrs. Bumpus to you? I'd like to know. I'll tell you what Mrs. Bumpus is. She's the smartest woman in the smartest set in South Kensington, and the handsomest, and the cleverest, and the most fetching to experienced men who know a good thing when they see it, whatever she may be to conceited puppies who think nothing good enough for them. Yes, you regard her with coldness, with indifference, and you have the cool cheek to tell me so to my face. For 2 pins, I'd flatten your nose in to teach you manners. Introducing a fine woman to you is casting pearls before swine. Before swine, do you hear?
You call me a swine again, and I'll land you one on the chin that'll make your head sing for a week.
What?
You
You shan't, Teddy, you shan't. Oh, you'll be killed. He is a prize fighter.
I'll prize fight him.
Henry, don't let him fight you. Promise me that you won't.
I have got a more frightful bump in the back of my head.
Until you have promised. Teddy, you promise, don't you? Yes, yes, be good, you promise.
I won't unless he takes it back.
He will, he does. You take it back, Henry, yes?
Yes, I take it back. I take it all back, without reserve.
Is nobody going to help me up? Now, wouldn't you two shake hands and be good?
I shall do nothing of the sort. I have stepped myself into lies for your sake, and the only reward I get is a lump on the back of my head the size of an apple. Now I will go back to the straight path.
Henry, for heaven's sake.
It's no use. Your husband is a fool and a brute.
What's that you say?
I say you're a fool and a brute. And if you'll step outside with me, I'll say it again. Those poems were written to your wife, every word of them, and to nobody else. I wrote them because I loved her. I thought her the most beautiful woman in the world, and I told her so over and over again. I adored her. Do you hear? I told her that you were a sordid commercial chump, utterly unworthy of her, and so you are.
You don't mean it.
Yes, I do mean it, and a lot more, too. I asked Miss Bumpus to walk out of the house with me, to leave you, to get divorced from you and marry me. I begged and implored her to do it this very night. It was her refusal that ended everything between us. What can she see in you? Goodness only knows.
My dear chap. Why didn't you say so before? I apologize. Come, don't bear malice. Shake hands. Make him shake hands, Rory.
Oh, for my sake, Henry. After all, he's my husband. Forgive him. Don't take his hand.
You've got to own that none of your literary heroines can touch my Rory. Hey, Rory? They can't resist you.
I hope you weren't hurt, really hurt, Henry. Oh, poor boy, what a bump. I must go get some vinegar and brown water.
Will you do me a great favor, Apjohn? I hardly like to ask, but it would be a real kindness to us both.
What can I do?
Well, may I get these printed? It shall be done in the best style, the finest paper, sumptuous binding, everything first class. They're beautiful poems. I should like to show 'em about a bit.
Oh, Henry, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, I don't mind. I'm past minding anything. I have grown too fast this evening.
How old are you, Henry?
This morning I was 18. Now I am confounded. I'm quoting the beast of a play.
What shall we call this volume? To Aurora, or something like that, huh?
I should call it How He Lied to Her Husband.